So here we are, chunk 5. I put there psychologist arrives because there you see David McLean, new character here. They addressed him, he's a psychologist. Okay, remember earlier on in chunk 1 we were talking about the psychologist, right? And what does a psychologist mean? He's an expert on matters of the mind. It's got something to do with the mind, right? So earlier on, again, we talked about how the nursery is able to conjure up images, right, based on the children's thoughts and imagination. So right now the nursery has conjured up all images to do with the Veldt. Okay, so full of violence, full of aggression. So the lions are waiting, they are feeding. So it shows that the children have been thinking dangerous thoughts. They've been thinking about death. So that's why the parents wanted to call in a psychologist to find out what is wrong with their children mentally. Alright, are they experiencing some kind of stress? Are they experiencing some kind of worry or anxiety, okay, that caused them to develop such thoughts? Okay, so let's see. So the father asked whether the psychologist noticed anything peculiar about the nursery. Well, the psychologist's comment is that he noticed that there were the usual violences. Notice he used the word usual, alright? Tendency towards a slight paranoia. Paranoia means that you are unnecessarily worried or suspicious of somebody. Okay, so he says, right, because the children feel persecuted by parents. Persecuted means that, you know, they feel mistreated, they feel threatened by their parents. So the psychologist acknowledges, or he notices that there's something not quite right, okay? But he dismisses it as something that is to be expected. Okay, so what does he say? Notices that there is something not quite right about the room, right? Because he says the usual violences and paranoia, all these are negative things, okay? But dismisses them as nothing unusual. So what you have here is actually, you know, the negative, all these show you, let me put this down, all these show you the negative side effects of this type of technology, alright? And yet the psychologist thinks nothing of it, you know, so it's to be expected. Okay? So right now the problem is magnified, it's even bigger than this. The usual violences is something greater. So that's why the parents have brought him in. Terrible screaming. Okay, they walked in on the children. Okay, screams had faded. The lions were feeding. Notice how the lions are always feeding in the story. The writer keeps the lions always in the background. Lions always in the background. Always feeding. Okay. He stood studying the lions and they were eating with great relish. Okay. So the psychologist turned around to study the walls. Alright, and he says, yeah, it doesn't feel good. Okay. Then when George tells him that he wants facts, the psychologist replied that I'm a psychologist. I look at feelings. But then he tells him I'm very accurate, so trust me. Alright? I know that there's something wrong when I see it. So this is very bad. So he tells him to tear down the house and bring the children for treatment. Solution. Tear down house. Alright, is it that bad? Okay. So over here, the psychologist give us further information about what is the original use of the nursery. Right? So he said it was for them to study the patterns left on the wall. Study the patterns left on the wall by the child's mind. Okay. And then help the child. Alright? So in this case, he says, the room has become a channel towards destructive thoughts. Okay, what does this all mean? Oh, hold on. Room has become a channel towards destructive thought instead of a release away from them. So originally, the nursery was intended to allow the children to project their thoughts onto its walls so that they can get rid of, you know, whatever unhappy or destructive thoughts they have. But in the end, right, what happens, he's saying, is that although the children manage to get these thoughts out onto the wall, they become stuck with the thoughts. So the negative effects would be the children are stuck, or they are fixated. We mean the same thing on negative or destructive thoughts. Okay, they're not able to release these thoughts. Okay. And then, okay, the psychologists go on to tell George, right, that he spoiled his children more than most. Okay, so more evidence of him being a bad parent. Okay, let's put it down. Not doing duty of a parent. All right, overly indulgent. Okay, so leads to spoiled children. All right, so he asks George, exactly what is it that you have done that you have let them down? Okay, so it's not playing the role of a parent well. I wouldn't let them go to New York. Okay, and it says I've taken the machines and shut them off. Okay, so why is this a problem? Why is he letting the children down? So the psychologist's comment is that what the children had before was a Santa Claus, and now they have a Scrooge. What's the difference between the two? Santa Claus is somebody who is very generous, right? And Scrooge is somebody who is very stingy. So previously, the parents have given the children everything they wanted. Okay, but right now they are taking things away from them. So he says, children prefer Santas. You've let this room and this house replace you and your wife in your children's affections. All right. Okay, so over here, they have neglected their role and responsibilities as parents. Okay, they have relegated this responsibility to the house, or rather to technology, right? So the technology takes over their role as parents. See, this is key information. Their room is their father and mother. So the children goes to the room for their needs, far more important in their lives than their real parents. So they have made the room very important in their children's eyes, and now they want to come and take away the room. So obviously the children will feel very angry towards them. Okay, no wonder there is hatred there. Okay, you can feel it coming out of the sky. That's why George felt that the heat was very strong, right? It was beating down on him. So he told him, you have to change your life. Okay, you've built it around creature comforts. Okay, he's become too reliant on technology. Become too reliant on technology. Okay, so it tells him, turn everything off, start afresh. So that's the problem. All right, so over here again, you know, mention of the lions again. They were finished with their red fists. Okay, so there's blood, obviously. And the lions again were there. They're watching the two men. So the lions are never far from the scene. No matter what is being described about the parents and the children, the lions are always in the background. Okay, what does this suggest, or what effect does this have? There's always the effect, the sense of menace, sense of danger, a sense of threat, right? As though the lions are watching and waiting to pounce. Okay, so he says that it makes me nervous. The lions look real, don't they? Also, there's always the concern about realism of the Veldt, of the lions. They're very worried. Okay, so there is sense of unease over there. Then he asks, I don't suppose that there's any way they could become real. Okay, and he says, nope, not that I know of. So it creates an expectation that something bad might happen, right? Because there's a question the reader also asks ourselves, what if the lions do become real? Then what will happen? Okay, so over here, they went to the door, they're getting ready to kill the room, alright? And look at the comment, no, nothing ever likes to die, even a room. So usually you don't say a room dies, right? Because a room is a non-living thing, only humans die. So interestingly enough, there is comparison of room with humans, right? The room takes on human qualities, right? It can die. Okay, and then furthermore it says, right, whether the room hates me for wanting to switch it off. How can a room hate you? A room is a non-living thing. Okay, non-living thing with human, or rather non-living thing described in human terms. Okay. Over here he picks up a bloody scarf. This is yours? George Hadley's face was rigid. Why do you think his face went rigid? Rigid means that it went very stiff suddenly, you know. It went very straight. It belongs to Lydia. Alright. He notices something, didn't he? Right? What? Okay, so right now we have a scarf that belongs to Lydia. Earlier on, right, he also picked up something that belongs to him. Do you remember what it was? Right, it was a wallet, yeah? Okay, wallet belongs to George. So interestingly enough, a question we can ask ourselves is, what are their personal belongings doing in the room? Why are the things found there? Surely it couldn't have been George and Lydia who brought it there, right? Because he seems surprised to find them there. So who else could have brought these things there? The children? If so, why would the children bring these things there? So some questions that are raised, right? Who brought the parents' belongings to the Veldt? Why? What's the purpose? Okay, so think about this. Alright, then here we are. They killed the nursery. So the children went mad, right? Mad with anger. Okay, so they were in hysterics. Hysterics means that they threw a very bad tantrum, screamed and pranced and threw things, yelled and sobbed and swore. The children became uncontrollable, right? Throw tantrum. Tantrum became uncontrollable. Alright, this shows how attached, shows great attachment to room. You can't do that to the nursery, so they were crying. Okay, so over here, who is pleading with George? It's Lydia, right? She say, turn it on for a few moments. So over here, does this show that she's a good parent? She's concerned for her kid, her children? No, right? Okay, she's just being too soft-hearted here, right? Having the room on is not a good thing for her children. She knows it. And yet over here, because, you know, she couldn't bear how they are throwing a tantrum, so she gives in. Too soft-hearted, too quick to give in. Alright. We can also say she's overly indulgent. Right? She doesn't do what is good for them. Okay, so over here, her husband replies that the whole house will die. Okay, so the more I see of the mess, the more it sickens me. Okay, so over here is an admission, right, that they've not been doing the right thing. So there's regret. They become over-reliant on technology, right? Need a breath of fresh air, need a change. okay, need to start afresh. So following is his determination to just turn off everything and live like real responsible parents should. Okay, so over here they describe the house as being full of dead bodies. Mechanical cemetery. Now, humans die and go to cemeteries, right? When mechanical devices are spoiled, they're simply thrown away. So here we have another example of non-living objects given human qualities. Okay, interesting. So again, you have some sense of menace, some sense of unease, right? Because why do you describe the house as being human? It seems almost as though the house has its own thoughts and feelings. Alright, it can do things on its own will. So it ties back to the idea that George is afraid that the room will become real. Okay, now remember, this is a science fiction story, so anything can happen. Alright, so Peter is very annoyed. He turns to the father and says, I hate you, right, over a house. I wish you were dead. Okay, so he wanted the father to die. Okay, so this again creates unease. Okay, I mean, what if it becomes true, right? Will the story make it true? Okay, so over here they plead and they cry, and the wife pleads with the husband again, and then here George gives in. Okay, not strong enough. Okay, and they say, daddy, daddy, daddy. The kids are happy. Okay, right. Okay, so here it's making plans to start anew. Okay, so that's what he's going to be doing. Now, over here, we're going to stop, okay, and summarize. Basically, for chunk 5, we looked at the negative effects of technology on the children, right? When the psychologist comes in and gives his diagnosis. Okay, so he talks about how George and Lydia have failed as parents. Alright, then there's the determination to start afresh. Okay, negative effects of technology. Let me see if I can put it in here. Okay, that will make your revision easier also. This part where the psychologist gives his diagnosis, right, where I highlighted in green. Yep. So this is pretty important message in the story. Negative effects of technology on children and parents. Alright. Okay, so basically what happens is the parents stop being parents. They gave up their role as parents and turn it over to technology. Right, then now they want to take away that technology from their children. That technology which has become so important for the children, they want to take it away. So obviously the children became very angry, very resentful. Okay, so over here, determination to start afresh, right? I think a question we can ask ourselves is, will the story have a happy ending? Alright, will the family really get to start afresh? The parents start behaving like responsible parents, taking care of their children's emotional needs as well as their physical needs, you know, the daily needs. Or is something going to happen? Right, remember we talked about how there is always a sense of threat and menace. When they talk about the lions becoming real, the room feeling angry at the parents at being turned off. Okay, so we'll continue this in chunk 6.